Hey folks, welcome back to FreepCast. My name is Robb Murray. I'm your host. I'm here with managing editor Joe Spear. And extra special guest today, we have Kevin Dudley. He's one of our sports writers. He covers Maverick hockey, which will be the subject that we'll start off with today. Kevin, how was that weekend series? Tell us about the game you went to and the game you didn't go to.
Yeah, it's always exciting when North Dakota comes to town. There's always some extra buzz. You know, there's going to be several hundred their fans. You know, you do the press conference on Wednesday, and that Zoom call is always really full, a lot of media into it, and you get to the press box, and there's a lot of people that you're not used to seeing there. So very exciting, and the hockey, I think, lived up both nights. It was very, very exciting, and I think overall, if you were a Maverick fan, pretty good weekend for you. So.
Yeah, and I am a Maverick fan, and I went to the Saturday game, which was really an incredibly well-played game by the Mavericks. They beat North Dakota 3-0, even though it seemed like North Dakota had the buzz. They had a lot of control of the puck. They were throwing a lot of shots on net. And one of the big stories is, of course, how many shots were blocked by the Mavericks. It was an incredible number. I think it was something like 34. And then 15 of the 30 shots in the third period were blocked. I think at one point there were at least one or maybe even two Mavericks who were limping off the ice. At one point, somebody fell down from a block shot. I forget who it was, and was right in front of the goaltender when all the activity and buzzing. North Dakota was still shooting, and the ref was not going to stop play. So this Mav player got up and kind of tried to get in the play, but the block shots, I don't think I've seen that many in a while from the Mavericks. Is that a strategy they sometimes employ for different reasons, or is this just something that's part of their regular repertoire or way to play?
I think block shots can sometimes be a bit finicky in the sense that, you know, you're going to have more chances some games depending on what the other team is trying to do. If the other team is looking to take more shots, especially from further out, you're going to get more chances to do it. I also think it can be a sign of desperation at times. And MSU has some players like Mason Wheeler had a bunch, Campbell Psychos, who are shot blockers. That's a big part of their game. But I thought what was impressive Saturday was to see guys like Luciano Wilson, Luigi Benincasa, Rhett Pitlick, the more offensive type wingers who were really putting their nose in there and selling out the block shots. I think MSU, the loss Friday stung. I mean, I've been down in the room for some, below for press conferences, some tough losses, but that was one of the hardest ones I've seen in terms of just really, I think they felt like they deserved to win, and they obviously didn't get that result.
Right, they had the 2-0 lead. Yep. It was going to be 3-0, except Isley got called for the hitting the head, and it was unusual because the North Dakota coach, called for the ref to look back at it after the goal, right?
He did, yeah, and that's honestly a really good job by the North Dakota staff, their entire staff, to find it, go back and mark it, and because it is the protocol that if you can find that head contact, that is reviewable, and anything that happens after it, if they find the penalty is negated, and that's what happened, and good on them for finding it. And I mean, MSU, there were 3.5 minutes left in the second period when that happened, and they killed 3.5 of that major, and then first minute of the third, they come out, they've got 1.5 minutes to kill, and 2 pucks end up in the net in the first minute, and it just 18 seconds apart the goals came, and it really kind of took the wind out of their sails, I think, a bit. But even down the stretch, I thought they played fine. North Dakota kind of got a rush where they were able to score a goal, and MSU just couldn't get that third goal. But the response on Saturday, I didn't get to watch. I was doing editing stuff, but got to read all about it from Shane Frederick at Mankato, and he did a great job as always, and he really painted the picture. It really sounded like a bounce-back effort for everyone.
Yeah, it was a great game, and I think I don't know if I've heard the details of how Isley hit the guy in the head. Did you have any details? Was it just a check, or he came up high with his stick, or
It was a check. I mean, it was one of those. It was not the stick. It was his shoulder.
Okay.
It was one of those situations where the guy was kind of bent down. I think the play had moved on a little bit. Not so much so that it's not the kind of hit that you don't see in big time hockey games all the time. But I mean, by the letter, it definitely was a penalty. And yeah, I mean, it's a tough way to lose. I mean, obviously it's not the only reason they lost, but it was clearly the turning point, and it's a tough way to have the turning point happen. It's such a big turning point when you go from 3-0 to a penalty that makes it 2-2. Yeah, just a very drastic swing in the game, and to have the goals happen so fast, it kind of did feel like a little bit of a tidal wave when those two goals happened. It got pretty loud. The North Dakota fans, they were making themselves heard after that second goal.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. North Dakota travels well. There was a ton of green shirts and sweaters in the audience, and they had their own chants going. I mean, I asked somebody, and I think Grand Forks is 5.5 hours from here. I mean, that's a long truck to watch a hockey game. Mm-hmm. But they like their team. I think Isley also made it up the next night, right? He got a goal. And he apologized to his team, and I thought that was good. It's one of those things, hockey is a fast-moving sport. We got to remember they played 2 very good games against the number 5 team in the country, right? I mean,
they did, and I think that's what makes the bounce back even more impressive because, I mean, the CCHA is a fine league, but you're just not going to get chances to play and beat a team of that quality that often. People don't like to talk about the pairwise this early. Some people don't, but it matters. Luke, Coach Strand will talk about it, and to be able to compartmentalize it, and then 20 hours later be ready to play another game, and to play as well as they did. I do think it's kind of at the press conference, Luke talked about being a blueprint. What does the optimal game look like? Well, that's kind of what it looks like, and maybe the whole weekend is kind of what it looks like other than that 1 minute. So
do you want to maybe tell about what is the pairwise? We may have some listeners who have no idea what that is.
It's it's the algorithm that determines who makes the NCAA tournament. The 6 conferences all get an automatic bid, which is the winner of those conference tournaments, and then there's 10 at-large bids, which go to the top next best 10 teams in this pairwise metric, and different things impact the pairwise. It's kind of a convoluted formula. I don't know everything that goes into it, but non-conference games matter a lot. And MSU, North Dakota is going to be one of the probably the best team they play this year. Maybe Michigan.
So beating a team like North Dakota is pretty heavily weighted.
It is pretty heavily weighted
if they stay
Michigan.
good.
If they stay good.
If they stay good. If they end up being a terrible team in a month and a half, it won't be weighted as much.
It will not be. And it'll be like, for a team like North Dakota, they play in such a good conference that it's hard. They're going to get so many chances to beat good teams that they're just gonna, because it's the nature of hockey. So it's hard to see them not being good for me, because they have a ton of good returning players too. But yeah, the Michigan win will be also even more so because it was a road win. And it being a road game is also part of the formula. So yeah, those are 2 really good wins they've got through 3 weekends here.
That's awesome. Kevin, you've watched Coach Strand here now for a year and a half or so. How is he different from Mike Hastings?
They're both very personable guys in different ways. I think Luke is really a jokester. He's really a funny guy.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, practices are intense. I was there a couple weeks ago. They were doing a skate test, and that was pretty intense. They're pretty dead, but yeah, he keeps it. Tries to keep it loose. Mike's very intense. I think they're both, hard on their players. Mike maybe in some moments can be a little harder. But there's different ways to coach. There's different styles that work, and I think you kind of see that.
I think you used to hear about Mike. He would like everybody has to earn a spot to play. You don't just start automatically. You have to practice well. You have to play well. You have to show a full game. Does Coach Strand do some similar?
100%. Yeah. Like, I mean, the lineup decisions that he makes are hard. And I think that's true across college hockey. This MSU team has a lot of depth on the D-corps, for example. And I think, I mean, they ended up having 9. One of their defensemen, Jacob Stender, who I think could be in the lineup as a defenseman on a lot of other teams, has actually been MSU's fourth line center. But yeah, all coaches struggle with that decision on weekends. Like on Saturday, Luke had his line chart came out, and it was one player or another for the extra skater, essentially meaning that it was like a game time decision. He couldn't decide because it was, such a hard call. And especially in this era of the transfer portal, I mean, you've got to balance the idea of, trying to win now, and also like maybe you've got a young player that hasn't been in the lineup in a month. What do you need to do to keep him in your program the next year if you view him as somebody that maybe 2 years down the road is going to be a key player on your team? I mean, we saw guys like Cade Borchert was a guy in the Hastings era that I covered for 3 years, 2 years, but his freshman year he didn't play at all hardly. I mean, 9 games I think, sparingly in those games, but he came his sophomore year and he was a top 6 player, and he was a top 6 player for 3 years, and he was a captain his senior year. And nowadays, I mean, you might lose that guy after a year. That was pre-portal era. So
it's interesting you say that, because I think Strand has kind of used that portal in a way to go find people at big teams that maybe weren't playing as much as they wanted to play, and they're kind of hungry, and you bring them in here and you give them a lot of playing time, and that seems like it's kind of been one of his strategies.
He had to use it a lot that first year just because of the way, I mean, MSU, when Hastings left and Strand took over, 10 players were signed to national letters of intent. MSU only ended up keeping 3 of those players. So that caused just a math problem that had to be solved by the portal. And even then, Luke was hired, I believe it was April 10th of 2023. That's late in the college hockey offseason nowadays. So he was scrambling a bit that year. And the way recruiting works in college hockey, you're committing guys years out, and then they're playing junior hockey after they finish high school, and you don't have them sometimes until they're 20 or even 21 as freshmen on your team. So I think next year we're going to see maybe a little less portal and more a bigger incoming freshman class, because last year it was only 1 freshman Luke had time to get into that class, including the 3 that stayed, so 4 freshmen. And this year I think it again was 3 or 4 only. There were some guys that are signed that they made the decision, we're going to have you play more junior hockey to develop. That would be the best course. But I think you'll see more freshmen next year. But yeah, the portal certainly has been big, and you're seeing some guys like Rhett Pitlick, I guess technically not in the portal, but brought in from a different program, and Caden Bolson, who's been a top 6 player, and Luigi Benincasa from Ferris State is going to be a top 6 player. So yeah, it definitely has been a tool that Luke has used.
Interesting. And this weekend we have home stand against Omaha, who is ranked number 16. How are you looking at that series?
I think they're good. They went out to Vegas the first weekend for the icebreaker, and they beat UMass in Minnesota. And Luke said at his presser Tuesday, he thinks Minnesota is as talented a team as there is in the country. I think it's easy to see that just based on the roster. Last weekend they did get swept by Augustana, who's in their first year as a full member of the CCHA, but kind of some weird stuff happened in that series. Some really good goaltending by Augustana, which we'll get to see them later. Maybe that'll be a sign of things to come in the CCHA in terms of a new contender. But Omaha NCHC team, super battle tested. It's going to be another good test, and they're ranked 16th in the USCHO.com poll. So that'll be another good test and a great series for the home fans to see.
And we've got high school stuff happening as well. East boys and girls are both in the state soccer tournament. Starts Thursday, and then we see that East and West are going to match up in football again for the section tournament. What are you seeing in those matchups and how that's going to go.
Yeah, I'll maybe speak on soccer a little more because I was at the section finals last week at New Prague. The East boys, I mean, it's part of the reason I love high school sports. I love covering. I mean, they just have had so many section championship game appearances that have ended up being losses. And last year, maybe the most frustrating, they played Worthington in the final in 2023 last year, and that was the team they lost to 5-0 in the regular season. And they were winning 1-0 in that section final with less than 2 minutes to go. And they conceded the game tying goal and eventually ended up losing in a penalty shootout. So that was a tough way. I got to see them walk off that field last year and the disappointment, and then this year to break through and to get it done. I don't think they played their best game. Coach Asplin would say that, but they got it done in extra time. They did not want to go to a shootout. They're very happy to not have that happen. But just the joy, the emotion, first time since 2012 that they had been to state in Coach Asplin's 19th year, that was a cool scene. So yeah, and the East girls, three straight trips now. They've just become a powerhouse. I think I've written this, before. I think that crosstown wise might be the best rivalry going is East-West girls soccer. Both programs are just so consistently good and contenders every year. Even in a down year, they're going to have a chance to go, and it's fun to see them match up. West won the matchup in the regular season, and East just got the better of it in this game. East kind of took control early and kept its foot on the gas, and they're going to be the 3 seed at state, so they're playing an unseeded team. They've got a really good chance to win a game and get back to the semifinals, which they did in 2022. And East boys are a 4-5 with Orono. They're the 5. The East boys are. So that should be another great match. It'll be a fun night Thursday up at Spring Lake Park.
Wow, great competition in those high school sports. And East-West football, what do you think about that again?
Yeah,
East probably has their big player back again, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Brogan Madsen.
Yeah,
the wide receiver, basketball standout. Many people know him from that. Yeah, I think he had a sprained ankle, and the latest I heard was that he's probably going to play. It's just that section. It's always been competitive, but this year it really does seem like there are 4-5 teams that could maybe come out, and it feels like whoever comes out, which this is usually the case, is going to have a really good chance to win the state championship.
Wow. Okay.
West and Chanhassen played in that section final last year. Chanhassen kind of wins through a miracle long pass, and they win the state championship. It feels really likely West would have won that state championship if they would have won that section final. So those section football games are really fun to watch, and to get East-West in the semifinals is going to be a fun rematch. I think you'll see East, really come out and kind of make a counter punch here. They're a good team, and they've got an explosive offense, and it'll be interesting to see how they try to adjust to what happened in the first time.
All right, we've got a lot of good sports coming up.
When was the last time East beat West in football?
It's an 18-game winning streak now, I believe. Or maybe it was an 18. Maybe now it's 19.
It's 19 now.
It's 19 now. Yeah, 19-game winning streak. So it's been a bit. Yeah.
Wow.
Been a few years.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to let Kevin go. Appreciate getting updated on all the sports, and we're going to talk about news for a little bit and wrap it up after that.
Thanks Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
Kevin.
And welcome back. That was great to hear from Kevin. He's a really good reporter. It's always good to hear from the people who are on the beat doing the stories. We're going to get to some news now. A lot of stuff going on.
Just catching up on the news. Yeah, you can't go a week without the Rapidan Dam store being in the news somehow. We had a story about a guy who's done a Rapidan Dam photo book, kind of retelling the history, and of course the big news at the end with the dam store having been taken down because of the impending flood and erosion and all that kind of stuff. And
that's a book he's selling, correct?
Yes, and you can, if you go to our story online, I think there's a link to how to do that, how to find it. Really great effort, and it's great to have people recording the history like this of monumental events. We thought when we had the Rapidan Dam story this year, we were already talking about major stories of the year, And we thought, well, how could there be a bigger one? Well, maybe your local guy being the vice presidential candidate might be slightly bigger. Who knows? Rabbit and Dam matters a lot, though. We checked up on the Minneopa Trail that was closed from that tragic accident last year where the falls kind of eroded and killed that MSU student, fell on him. Still not fixed, and don't know when it'll be fixed. This is the trail that goes all the way down to the falls that many people know about. And it looks like the heavy spring rains probably did some more damage, and they don't know when they're going to fix that. So
what is the delay on that? Are they just trying to figure out a way to make it safe, or are they trying to actually fix something down there?
They're not very specific when we interview them about this. So I think a lot of things are maybe up in the air. Maybe, I can only speculate. Maybe they think it's not going to be a thing anymore, or maybe just one side. But sometimes these things take a while to get going. That's why we're always checking on it and like, hey, what's the latest? So try to do that. Cool story by Brian Arla about former athletes turned doctors now serve as team physicians for MSU. That was a cool story. And we know Blue Earth County is going to have at least 6 cannabis retail shops. That was discussed at the county board the other day. Of course, we talked with Kevin about the big East-West matchup. And we had a weird question for Ask Us this week. Mankato police explain presence of mobile surveillance cameras. Did you ever recognize where these cameras are?
No.
Neither did I. I guess they're in trucks. They're mobile. And they put them up and just to let people know, hey, in certain areas that they feel might be crime prone, they let people know they're watching. So didn't know that. But once again, Ask Us Guy comes through with a lot of stuff we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Big story that was kind of hard to get at. And Brian Arla did a great job on it. BENCHS, the Humane Society. We were notified late that there was going to be a sort of a raucous meeting, public meeting with BENCHS and the staff and the board. We went to it. Brian was able to get to it. Didn't report on it right next day, but followed up the next couple days and interviewed people. And boy, it's hard to sort out. You've kind of followed BENCHS for a while. What is your take on what we wrote or kind of what's happening?
Well, the first thing I'll say is the situation with BENCHS has been going on for a long time, and I don't remember a time when things were going smoothly over there. There always seems to be some rancor between the board and whoever's working there, the director and the staff. And I don't really understand it because at the end of the day, it should be about the welfare of the animals. And the more that this infighting and bickering goes on, the less likely people are to want to donate to BENCHS, and they're less likely to want to go there to adopt animals. And what makes this even more important now is that BENCHS, if folks don't know, is the pound, is the animal impound. If there's animals found, the city closed down its Sibley Park facility where they were doing pound work, and they were contracting with BENCHS. And the fear was if BENCHS were to close, what's going to happen with all these dogs that get impounded or cats? And you would think that that alone would prompt people to want to figure it out, get this thing organized and efficient, and do the work that they're there to do. I'm not saying they're not doing the work, but something's wrong with the setup at BENCHS. And also, if you remember, was it 15 years ago or so, they raised all that money to build that facility. It was a lot of money. The public really came through for them in that time of need. And I don't think the public would be real happy if they knew I don't want to badmouth them too bad. They are doing good work, but I've heard rumors and rumblings for years about poor management and disagreements between the staff and the board, and it's just too bad.
Yeah, one of the issues that was brought up in Brian's article was the no-kill policy. So it's a no-kill shelter, so you don't put animals down even when it might be in their best interest. I think they mentioned a dog that was very, vicious and biting people and behavioral things. It's a touchy subject, I guess, but it's one that really has to be dealt with one way or another.
Yeah, having a no-kill shelter is certainly a great idea, and it would be amazing if that were always possible to carry through with that. But there are some animals that can't be adopted, and if they're dangerous, and if they're larger animals and they're dangerous,
Is that normal for most humane societies to have a no-kill policy, or do many of them?
It depends on where they are. Smaller communities can do that. Ramsey County, Hapa County probably can't.
Okay.
There's just too many animals.
Yeah. It seems like, and now we know John Brady is the chairman of the board, right? Former mayor, and a very level-headed guy when he was on city council. And so I guess that's some good stability. But I don't know. I was left after reading that story. Where do they go from here? Someone's got to lead. Someone's got to, take charge. Or someone's got to be an organizer that says, we're going to be together on this. What do we need to do to get everybody on the same page? But I don't know what the next step would be to do that.
I don't know either. My observation over the years is, you need to let the people you hire do the work they're hired to do and not micromanage them. It seems to me that the board is maybe trying to micromanage. Right.
Or you should have a set of, expectations that here's the board. This is what we think your goals should be.
Mm-hmm.
You staff tell us how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that, board can give direction, but I agree with you. The board can't micromanage. And that just makes for a chaotic situation.
I mean, they've gone through several directors in the last few years. The vet that they had quit. These aren't good looks.
Yeah.
For any nonprofit.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. We'll look to people out there to come up with solutions. Call us if you think you have one. We'll do stories on it, write editorials. But I think it's too big of a community asset to let flounder around and devolve into chaos. A lot of people in Mankato seem to have pets, love pets. You just see this kind of support for these kind of things. So you hate to see it, devolve into something that's not good for the community.
Right.
But I think that's covering most of the big news. And again, we thank Kevin for his insights into the Mav hockey. And I think we can wrap it up.
Yeah, we should also thank Casey behind the scenes here, who's recording all of this and making us look better. All right, we'll see you next week. Thanks.